Should you buy resale or new construction here in Austin in 2025? And I'm gonna answer that question in today's video because there is a lot to talk about. And I'm just going to talk in this brand new house right behind me, this Chesmar home located here in Manor. And we're just gonna talk through what your choices are, the nuances of both options, the good, the bad, the ugly. And hopefully this resonates with you and answers your question. And if it doesn't, you know what to do. Reach out to me. Link is down below in the description. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's get started with the differences, like the quick differences between resale and new construction. So resale simply means that somebody already owns a house and they're selling it as a resale option. So they're reselling the house on the market. New construction is what the name implies. It is new construction, brand new, everything is completely new. You are going to be the first and only owner. That's the differences between resale and new construction. Now, here in Austin is actually ranked number 9 in the entire US for new construction sales. So a large majority of Austin's real estate sales are in the new construction sector. And you know it, I know it. If you're from here, you see new construction neighborhoods popping up literally everywhere. If you're not from here, you're just driving around a little bit, you will see new construction neighborhoods literally popping up everywhere. And it's not even just new construction single family houses. You will also see a lot of apartment complexes popping up everywhere, a lot of retail businesses popping up everywhere. Austin is still continuing to boom and build, and that's just the nature of the beast. So a lot of people are getting into new construction, especially when you consider what new construction has to offer versus resale. So let's break that down. The difference is what resale can offer versus new construction. So new construction can always beat resale on a few different things. Number one is going to be incentives. A lot of these builders, to compete with other builders and also to compete with resale options, they will offer incentives like interest rate buy downs. They will cover your closing costs. They're gonna offer you some sort of a warranty package, maybe along the lines of a 1-2-10 warranty. If you heard that before, that means you've been watching the video. That means you should give yourself a thumbs up because you're paying attention and you're grabbing some value and you're learning from these videos. So give yourself a thumbs up on that one by liking the video. Builders will also sometimes, depending on the builder, will also give you brand new appliances, and appliances means fridge, washer, dryer. They'll also throw in a garage door opener, water softener system. The list could go on and on and on. I've even helped people actually make money at the closing table. I was actually one of those people before I even had my real estate license that made money at the closing table from buying a house because the incentives were so great and amazing. That's the main differences between resale and new construction when it comes to incentives. Now, just so you guys understand the science behind some of these rate buy downs, so you might see a sign that says 499, 399. I've even seen signs for as low as 199 here in 2025. It's temporary, but I've seen it and it's possible. And it's possible because these builders are spending millions of dollars to buy these rates down on the front end, and that way you can enjoy them. However, because they are spending that money, they really do put that into the sales price of a house. So if they have to spend $20,000 per house, you know, if it comes up to that average to buy the rate down to 499, well then you are truly not, they're really not really, you know, to be honest with you, they're really not passing that $20,000 savings on to you. They're building that into the price of the house. But if you are buying a house at a 499 rate that's $20,000 overinflated versus a resale option, which today's market rates are somewhere in the 6 to 6.5% range, where you are still saving money on a monthly basis, even though you bought one house for $20,000 more, give or take, right? So the math ends up working out in your favor, but at the end of the day, there are nuances involved with that type of setup. Now, let's talk about spec homes, AKA inventory homes, versus TBBs, also known as to be built options. And this is on the new construction side, right? So if you're buying a resale house, what you see is what you get. You're gonna buy that as is, right? You can ask the seller to make repairs, but essentially whatever character that house has, whatever rooms it has, whatever finishes it has, you are taking on that responsibility of ownership now. With new construction, there are 2 ways to go about it, and this always comes down to which builder you're going with. Number one is a spec home, AKA an inventory home. Inventory home is basically a home that's already on the ground, like the one that I'm standing in right now, and you're basically gonna buy that as is. So you're taking this house on, you like the floor plan, you like the layout, you like the finishes. The builder's gonna do nothing else other than give you the keys, and all you gotta do is just move your stuff in. That is what a spec home is, or otherwise known as a inventory home. The second option is TBB, or to be built, and this is where if you want to customize your house. This route, going that route, is going to be more expensive because there is customizations now. The builder, most builders do that does allow that option, is that they're gonna hand you, or is that they're gonna give you basically what the floor plan looks like, and they're gonna ask you, look, do you wanna make any changes to this floor plan? Some builders allow it, some don't. So you can move around, you can move rooms around, you can add square footage. Sometimes you can take square footage away. If you don't want the office, instead of an office, you wanna turn that into a bedroom with a bathroom in it. You can do that. Again, depends on the builder, but that's where you're able to fully customize your home. And usually people that goes this route, they typically stay in their homes either forever or for much longer versus buying a spec home. So that's the difference between resale, spec home, and to be built, AKA customization. It is more tailor-made for your needs, your wants and your needs, and it can be beneficial, right? It can be beneficial to build your own house. That also comes with a caveat, because guess what? We are not designers. I'm not a designer, and I'm assuming you're not a designer, or at least most people are not designers. So most people will over customize a house, put too much money into it. They won't get that money back on resale. And sometimes even if they don't move in that house, and the builder has to now sell that house as an overly customized or overly personalized customized house, it's gonna be a little bit harder to move that house versus another similar floor plan that's a blank canvas. So that's the big difference between resale and new construction when it comes to be built and spec homes. Now, let's talk about the systems in a new construction house. I am now in the garage. Hopefully y'all don't hear the echo that's going on in this garage. But this garage, this builder's Chesmar home, so this is a prime example. They're already connected for a water softener system. You know, they have the irrigation system over there in the corner over there next to the window. And they're already pre-wired for a garage door opener. And it's just easy plug and play. Now, usually Chesmar depends on the neighborhood, but for the most part, they have waterless, or they have tankless water heaters. What a tankless water heater means for you is that this is instant hot water, and it's also a lower utility bill as well because it's more energy efficient. More and more builders are introducing these sorts of things inside of their builds because, again, they want to stand out from the competition. And this is just what the modern era in terms of real estate looks like. Everybody wants these type of features, and this is the benefit of going with new construction versus resale, because more than likely resale homes don't have these types of finishes. Most resale homes are gonna have your standard water heater, okay? The big tank, 5 gallon, 10 gallon, however many gallons they are, they're gonna have those. And most of the time they're gonna be original, right? Versus a brand new one that is energy efficient, that costs a couple grand if you wanna buy it at a store. And then also it makes your water pressure not only strong, but also hot as soon as you turn it on versus you having to warm it up. Now with the irrigation system, it depends on how old of a house you have, or unless if the previous owner installed an irrigation system, but that is something that's a little bit more modern. I can't really give you guys like a cutoff date or a cutoff age because I have seen older homes have this, but every single builder, and I am gonna say that with complete confidence, 99% of the builders, if not 100% of the builders in Austin, they include an irrigation system inside of the garage with the house. And what an irrigation system is, it's a fancy word for sprinkler system. Now, some builders are starting to implement a smart home feature, which I'm gonna talk about smart homes here in a second, but most builders are implementing the smart home feature with their irrigation system, meaning that you can control your irrigation system with your phone. Think about that for a second. So with my house, I have to actually set up the irrigation system. Let's go walk out there to the panel. I'm gonna show y'all exactly what I do. So with my house, I gotta flip this control panel. We gotta set this thing. This is exactly what I use in my house actually. So we gotta put manual watering if I wanna water it right now, and then press auto, and then all of a sudden everything is gonna start turning it on. Or I can set it up based off the season or run times or whatever days of the week. If I wanna run it once a week, if I wanna run it every other day, I can set it up like this. But what builders like Chesmar are starting to do is that they have a Wi-Fi connection to where you can control this with your phone. This is a really big deal because I want you to imagine that if you are somebody that likes to go on vacation a lot, if you're somebody that likes to leave town a lot, or whatever the case is, or you're simply just too busy, you could literally control that with a couple press of your buttons on your phone. I actually lost money. I lost about a couple grand because of a mistake I made with an irrigation system on my rental property because I don't have Wi-Fi enabled. I have to set it up in person. And this house is about 45 minutes to an hour away from where I live, so I set it up wrong. And I was running water about 5 to 6 hours a day for 7 days, for 2 months straight. 7 days a week, 2 months straight. I lost quite a bit of money on that. Now, if I had a Wi-Fi enabled irrigation system where I can control with my phone, I would have never made that mistake, right? And mistakes happen. But all in all is to say is that homes are getting smarter, and the irrigation system is a perfect example. Now, to talk more about the smart home features, you will see builders start to implement smart features, which includes, but not limited to, thermostats, which can also be controlled with your phone. Crazy. Not just thermostats, but split AC units. So if you have a house, if you have a 2-story house, you could control the thermostat on the first level to be one temperature, and the second level to be a completely different temperature. That's right. Amazing. It blows my mind. And that's all for one HVAC system. Other things include your Ring doorbell. A lot of builders are also implementing that to where the Ring doorbell automatically just comes with the house. What a Ring doorbell is just your doorbell has a video camera on it. It records. You could also tell people to F off if they come to your door unannounced. Those damn solicitors trying to sell something. Some builders are also offering security systems, keypads on the front of the door, which are also Wi-Fi enabled. Crazy. They're also implementing appliances to be controlled with, guess what? Your phone. Crazy again. The builder the other day, I forgot exactly who the builder was. It might have been Perry Homes or Highland Homes, but essentially you can control the oven with your phone, which is insane. That's basically the bulk of smart home features that these new construction, that you're gonna find in these new construction properties versus a resale home. Again, a resale home, you buy as is. So if it has it, that is a benefit. If it doesn't have it, well, guess what? You don't have it unless if you buy it. So that's a big difference between resale and new construction in terms of these special little features and the smart home access. Now, outside of these smart home features and these fancy items and things of that nature, so I know a lot of the older generation is gonna have questions like, well, when you have more technology in the house, it's just like a car. When you have more technology, you have higher end type of systems. That means your repair bills are gonna be higher, your maintenance bills are gonna be higher. And that is true to a certain extent, but you also got to think that a piece of technology is that it is built more efficiently as well. And one thing to keep note of is that with these tankless water heaters, with these smart home systems, you got to think you are actually saving money in the long run. Because I want you to think about it like this. Yes, these systems do cost more money and they do get passed on to you as a buyer, right? However, they are very beneficial. Tankless water heaters, it's gonna be less water that you have to use. And because it's better for your pipes, that means it's less maintenance, less wear and tear on your pipes in the long term. What about irrigation systems? You know, you should definitely keep your lawn watered. Imagine if you had to manually water, especially in this weather, right? And maybe you might overwater or underwater. Irrigation systems are meant to, so every single zone is watering evenly. I even heard of a smart irrigation system to where if you set it up and depending on the topography of your house, so depending on the layout of the land, zones will actually stop watering themselves, let the other zones water everything else, and then the zone will come back activated to make sure that that zone is not being hit by extra water and making sure that everything is all watered nice and even. Like that's how smart these systems can be. And it does pass the cost on to you, the consumer, in the long run. Same thing as windows. Builders are leaning more towards these energy efficient windows because they know it's hot as hell here in Texas. That sun can beam through your windows. And surprisingly, every single time I go in the house, it could be 150 degrees outside and the house still feels nice and cool. And I asked in these bigger homes, what is the average price of a utility bill? And every time a builder tells me, yeah, it's only like about $140, $150, my mind is blown because you have to think that's HVAC being ran about 85% of the year and their utility bill is only about $140, $150. because of these energy efficient materials like these windows. Perry Homes is known for that. The wall of windows, the most energy efficient windows that money could buy. And in turn, you do save money on a utility bill because again, they are energy efficient, they're double pane, meaning that the sun is not going to heat up your house. There is layers upon layers of materials that's basically, it could be hot as hell outside and it's gonna be cool as hell inside. And you're not gonna spend that extra dollar to cool your house down. And that's a very big thing here in Texas. Older homes don't have that. Older homes are gonna have outdated windows that you have to replace. That you're gonna have a higher utility bill because it's not energy efficient materials, you know? I'm not saying that every resale home is gonna be like that. I'm not saying every old house is gonna be like that, but more than likely they are going to be like that. Now, so far in this video, it seems like that I'm just kind of shitting on resale homes and I'm just really pumping these new construction homes as like the best clear-cut choice. I will say this though, I have run into two issues when it comes to new construction homes. One of them is that cookie cutter style, and the second one is gonna be the HOA. Let's talk about the cookie cutter. Depending on the builder, in a neighborhood, in the area, new construction homes do sometimes fall into the cookie cutter trap, which is every single house looks like the next. And I get it, there is no character to it. It is very plain and boring to look at. Especially in the outside, you have the same floor plan right next to each other, and it gets really repetitive. There are builders at the top of my head that I know for a fact I will never buy from them again because of that. Now, there are builders like Perry Homes that has a bylaw stating that they cannot build two of the same Perry homes within a 2-house ratio from that subject house, if that makes sense. So let's say house A is right here. They're not allowed to build that same floor plan 2 houses that way, 2 houses that way, 2 houses in front, and 2 houses behind. They're not allowed to have that same floor plan. Also, they're not allowed to have the same colors on the outside of the house. So if that one has white bricks, well, this one has to have gray bricks, that one has to have red bricks, then so on and so forth. So there are builders that try to get away from that cookie cutter look, but that is the big difference between resale and new construction, is that when it comes to resale, I'll be completely honest, I love the personality and charm that resale homes have. And the older they are, you know, the older the neighborhoods are, the more charm and personality that house has, in my opinion at least. Now, if somebody is reselling a 2020 build that was in a new construction neighborhood, that doesn't count, right? I'm talking about neighborhoods that aren't built by these big national brand companies. I'm just talking about these charmful neighborhoods, and every single house is different. I love that. I absolutely love that. So that's a big knock on new construction, is that you just do not get that type of personality. Although they do try to get away from that cookie cutter look, but still some builders suffer from that. My second con about new construction is going to be the HOA. So HOAs are a little bit blown out of proportion, at least online. You know, a lot of people think that HOAs are just this group of people with nothing else better to do. They don't have no jobs, they're a bunch of Karens, and they walk the neighborhood with measuring tapes and cameras and take pictures of people's trash cans for sticking 2 inches out the way, or measure their grass because their grass is 3.5 inches versus the standard 3 inches or whatever the hell. HOAs, in my experience, aren't exactly like that. They're not that evil, okay? HOAs could be a negative and a positive, and I think it's more positive than it is a negative. Let me explain. So the goal of the HOA is to retain the property value as high as possible in a neighborhood. So they do have bylaws, and what bylaws basically are is that it's a list of rules that you as a homeowner has to follow. There's a process for everything. Let's say, for example, you wanted to paint the exterior of your house flamingo pink. The likelihood of them allowing you to do that is probably slim to none. I have a better chance of winning the lottery than you have a chance of painting your house flamingo pink in a HOA neighborhood. It protects your neighborhood from people with those types of ideas, right? Because if you want to think about this, is that when it's time to sell your house and your house is sitting right across the street from somebody with a junkyard in front, 9 cars in the yard, they're running a mechanic shop in the back. And I'm using this specific example because I've seen this in an established neighborhood, in a pretty high dollar neighborhood. I've seen a house that looked like a junkyard, that looked like a mechanic shop. They were literally running a mechanic business out of it, and it looked like the neighborhood mechanic shop. But that one house, can you imagine that one house being across from yours while you're trying to sell your house for top dollar? That house will affect your property value 100%. So that is what HOAs are for. They're to preserve your property value. Some HOAs are worse than others. Some, they really don't care about, others, they really try not to be too involved in what's going on in your property. They want to make sure that everybody's house just looks clean. They want to make sure that your yard doesn't look like a jungle, that you don't have trash laying everywhere, that you don't have a junkyard in your front yard. That's the main point of HOAs. Social media will make HOAs seem like this is this evil corporation trying to get money. Granted, there are rules to the exception, okay? I'm not saying that all HOAs are nice, but I'm just saying for the most part, HOAs aren't bad. That is the experience with new construction, is that most of your new construction houses, they're gonna be in an HOA, all right? That's just a fact of life. Resale houses, you have a little bit more of a choice. Let's get into the fun part and talk about negotiations. So, you could negotiate with new construction. I know a lot of you guys might not know that, but you could negotiate against a builder just like you could with a reseller. Now, there's big differences in terms of negotiations between the two, and I'll try my best to explain. So, with new construction builders, there is no surprise if you're looking at a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house and you're comparing that same floor plan to a resale seller, more than likely the new construction house is going to be priced higher because it's newer. The builder probably has some incentives, like already bought down the interest rates, so the builder has more money tied into this, and they're trying to make a profit on this, and versus the reseller, they're selling it for whatever reason. So with that example in mind, there are similarities in terms of negotiations, and there's also a couple things that you have a more flexibility on in the resale side than you do the new construction side. So one of the flexibilities on the resale side versus the new construction side is gonna be sales price. So yeah, you could negotiate sales price with these builders. However, because of the comps, and I'm gonna break that down a little bit more than likely you're not gonna get a reduced sales price in a new construction house, and if you do get a reduced price, it's not gonna be that large. The reason why is because these builders have to maintain the appraisal value, right? If they're selling floor plans right next to each other, so 1,500 square feet over here, 1,500 square feet over there, and this one over there sells for, let's call it $25,000 less, that means that $25,000 reduction over there is going to affect the appraisal price over here on this house, and it's gonna cause appraisal issues. So that's why builders try not to knock off the price at least too dramatically, versus a resale, you can negotiate the price as low as you want to, just depending on how good your negotiation skills are. Now, another big difference in negotiations between resale and new construction is that builders, for the most part, could cover most of, if not all of, your closing costs. Resale, you can definitely ask for the seller to cover all your closing costs, if not most of them. But depending on the type of market you're in, buyer's market, seller's market, and depending on how much leverage the seller has, they could just tell you to, kick rocks, especially if they have multiple offers, right? Whereas new construction, it just depends on who signs that contract first, but they're all offering the same thing. We'll cover all your closing costs. Just sign the paperwork first, right? And the seller, you just have to go back and forth with them on. Interest rates. So you could only buy down your interest rate so much on the resale side. So let's say interest rates are 6.5% today. I am not a lender, so I don't know all the nuances when it comes to buying down the interest rate, but there is a clear cap. There is a ceiling to how low you can buy that interest rate down on the resale side. There's also a bit of a cap on how low you can get that interest rate down on the new construction side, but you're already starting at a low rate. For example, this house actually that I'm standing in, their interest rate is a 4.99%. And they also offer flex cash. And flex cash is just an extra, $10,000, $20,000 that you can use your own way. But most of the time when builders offer flex cash and a low interest rate, most of that flex cash is gonna go towards the interest rate, and you're just gonna be responsible for the closing costs. And again, depending on what the market looks like, depending on what phase the builder is in, depending on how many homes they have left, what time of year it is, so on and so forth, you can ask the builder to cover all your closing costs in addition to that incentive and flex cash incentive. Whereas a reseller, they cannot offer all these things. So the biggest negotiation difference between a reseller and new construction is just gonna come down to the price. The reseller could beat the builder on price. The builder could beat the reseller and literally everything else. There is one more main difference between new construction and resale, and it's going to be this. So when it comes to new construction, and this also depends on the builder, everything depends on the builder. Your deposits, the contract, the paperwork, and the way that the transaction works out is gonna be completely different than resale. Resale, your earnest money deposit is typically gonna be about 1% of the purchase price, whereas the builder might have a flat fee. They might be 3% of the purchase price. They might be a non-refundable deposit, you know, things of that nature. And another thing with the resale side and the contracts is that with the resale property, everybody can ask for an option period. What an option period is, maybe some of you guys heard it as an inspection period. Basically, you have the opportunity to back out of a contract for whatever reason. It's a minimum fee, like $200 for 7 days, just to give you an example. And if you don't like the house, if the inspection went bad, or if anything changes, or you change your mind, you could back out, you get your earnest money deposit back, and you continue to go on with your life. Whereas new construction, 9 times out of 10, the builders do not offer option periods, right? So they're gonna offer non-refundable EMDs. And like I said, they're usually more than 1% of the purchase price. So if you put, let's say, $5,000 down on the $300,000 purchase, you end up changing your mind or not liking a deal, whatever the case is it guaranteed that you're gonna get your money back? No, you really have to fight for it. Versus resale, you know, if it's pretty clear cut and dry inside the contracts, you can get that back pretty easily. New construction, completely different beast. When you start building your house, we're talking about $25,000, $35,000 worth of deposits and 50%, 25% down. Bigger deposits depending on the company or depending on the route you go with on new build. And the other thing that I pointed out that you should have caught on to was that you don't really get an inspection period on new builds, right? You could inspect the house while you're under contract, but as soon as you put pen to paper, you are locked in, all right? You better be closing or you're gonna be losing that money. That is a big difference between resale and new construction. So hopefully this video answers the difference between resale and new construction, and ultimately the big question of if you should buy a new construction house here in Austin in 2025 or if you should go the resale route. Let me know your opinion down below. Which one would you rather buy, resale or new construction? And if you're looking at buying either or, but specifically new construction, because this is what I specialize in, make sure you reach out to me and the team. Look, we have people reaching out to us all the time, all right? People from New York, California. We have people in Texas reaching out. I had somebody reach out from overseas before, Switzerland. Shout out to Switzerland. If you are looking to relocate to Austin and you need some help in your home buying journey, I wanna be that help. Contact me and the team. My link is down below in the description, top pin comment, and I'll make it that much easier for you. Just scan the QR code on the screen. That will take you to my form for you to fill out. Got a couple questions for you, but after that, it's gonna link you to my calendar so you and I can have a one-on-one conversation. And that way I know where you're at in your home buying journey. We can put together a plan, and that way we can put keys in your hand. This is In Austin with Dawson. I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.